Action. uh, hey there, my name is Deja. I'm the Empathic Dev. I started my journey to become a freelance web developer in 2017 after I found a class on Skillshare. With that class, I built my first website in about 2 hours, and it was really fun to use both my creative and my technical brain at the same time. Then I started researching what web development was the very next day. After realizing how much I love design and to build websites, I decided to learn how to turn this newfound passion into a career. I like the idea of working for myself despite the steep learning curve, the long hours, stress, and frustration. I really believe that being an entrepreneur is the right path for me to go in because I want the freedom to do what brings me joy and satisfaction every day of my life. Well, as you know, I'm on YouTube and on Twitch to share my journey as I learn web development, app development, find and manage clients, manage my mental health, and grow as a person in general. I'm really passionate about sharing my story and everything I'm learning so I can help others along my way. But I also do this mostly to keep myself accountable and document my progress so I can go back and see how much I've grown. So, thanks.
I'm Chris. Depending on which channel or video place people find this, some of y'all already know me, some of y'all don't. I teach game development on the internet through a company called Gamketo. I work with Indiecade and Arts Festival and IGJ Los Angeles. But part of why I thought it would be a cool idea to try a collab video together is just recently in my videos, my daily YouTubes, I've been focusing on like teamwork, on collaboration, and I realized that me sitting there alone commenting on how important collaborating is seemed kind of miss the point. I was like, I should try connecting more people doing videos together occasionally, and that's where Deja's been doing a really cool job, kind of like sharing your story through your Patreon, through your YouTube, through your Twitter, of this nice combination of like really kind of sharing sometimes the challenges of like having difficulty staying on task or doubting yourself or otherwise, but still also pushing through that, working it out anyway. And like we were just talking about a bit before this, we kind of started recording, the amount of challenges that either as an entrepreneur or as a freelancer are super common for everyone's life today, for an entire generation of us, where I work from home, I am like, that's my living room right there. And this is the set of challenges we have about keeping ourselves on task, getting ourselves to do stuff. It's a space I'm working with, helping people in my club with always, because they join us because like they know they want to make games, they know what to do next. They haven't been doing it, and we try to help get them doing that. And it also comes at this relevant lens of, you mentioned like, mental health, self-care, of when we are regulating ourselves, it can kind of swing both directions, right? If it can very easily kind of because we're doing things we're passionate about and we care about it, and unlike if we're working for a salary somewhere, it can often directly come back to benefit us and our reputation, our reach, our brand, potentially profitability, whatever, in a way that can very disastrously lead to either overworking ourselves or then like long periods of just like feeling lost because we don't have that direction coming from somewhere else. And your goals post today kind of inspired me to be like, hey, we should talk about some of this stuff. But do you want to say a few words either about kind of things you found have been helping you with keeping moving forward through this stuff? If I'm not mistaken, like you're largely taking courses still independently, right? It's not like you're in a school structure or being enforced on you. How are you making good use of all those resources out there?
I have started some courses on Udemy, and I've started some courses elsewhere. And it was really hard at first to like pick a specific path to go down because I was just so interested in learning everything. Like that's what I think is like my best quality is that I just love learning in general. So I was just thinking at first that I really want to do everything in technology. But what really helped me is realizing that A, I can't do everything. B, it would be better if I choose one thing and stick with that one thing, which is why I actually started the year of completion challenge. It's kind of like the 100 days of code challenge, where I challenge myself to code every day, focus on one project at a time, one client at a time, and, just stop trying to do everything at once. So I think that's what really helped me, just focusing on doing one thing at a time and choosing I guess you could say choosing a niche. Because at first I was thinking that I wanted to do like web design and web development. But now I kind of think that I just want to stay on the development side and just um, outsource the design work.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, and like I say, a bunch of my message lately has been about the benefits of teamwork. In part that to even realize like you can specialize, and it's okay
yeah,
for someone else to be worrying about that other half, where you
hmm,
can get that spec to follow from someone else's design. We mentioned like one thing at a time. I think a lot of people, and myself included, like wind up with this kind of anxious space of okay, but what if I put all my eggs in the wrong one basket at a time, right? Like when I
yeah,
started my business, my first approach was really kind of 6 little micro businesses at once to figure out like which of these could I even just kind of fishing line in the water, which one's getting bites, which one do I double
hmm,
down on or rebrand around
hmm,
or whatever.
hmm.
How did you kind of go through deciding which, that as your direction as opposed to the many other infinite possibilities of Udemy courses, Skillshare stuff?
Um, I don't know to be. I just chose. I just chose randomly. I was like, all right, I'm gonna like not focus on design. I'm just gonna focus on development because that's what I like to do right now. That's what I know that I like to do, and that's what I know that I'm good at right now. That's what I have been studying already. So yeah, I haven't really been putting much focus on UI and UX design. So I chose development because that's all I know right now. And like in the future, I do plan on branching out to do other things, but like I just want to specialize in that one thing first and then branch off.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a really healthy perspective as well, where it can feel sometimes like we're starting a game D&D and we have to like pick our class and like we're stuck in that forever. Whereas
Hmm.
of course, you can multi-class later. And
Yeah,
this is where like for a lot of folks, a lot of people I meet who are doing game design started as programmers. So a lot of people doing music started as sound effects people or whatever. Of like, it's okay to build a skill set around something. You don't lose that when you pick up other stuff later.
yeah,
I had a
exactly.
coworker from like '07 I caught up with, and he used to be fully an artist at the company. The only thing he did was visual arts, and now he's a programmer. And I was like, "Did you pivot to programming?" He's like, "No, I added programming. Like I'm still
Hmm.
doing art stuff too, but enough years piled up, he added a new thing to it." I know you've recently found some contract or some freelance stuff. Can you speak a bit to
Yes.
kind of how you navigated that thing where obviously many people would like to add some gigs on the side or find work they can do independently? How you made that work or figured it out?
Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out, which is why I started this new entrepreneur journal tier on my Patreon, where I just kind of talk about everything that I'm doing and just show people all of the mistakes that I'm making. So yeah, I'm still learning that area right now. But I've been really lucky finding uh, clients that are understanding and are willing to wait for me to learn. Like it's incredible how lucky I've gotten with clients because I hear so many horror stories of like all these clients that are just so impatient and stubborn and just don't understand that we as freelancers, entrepreneurs, small business owners are people too. And we have lives and we have mental health issues. And, we just, they don't understand that, we are also people and humans. And, so yeah, I've
Yeah,
just been really lucky and I'm still learning.
right on. Yeah, there's definitely. I feel like some of my worst interactions. I used to do freelance stuff as my main kind of work, and to an extent, I still do sort of some of that. But it felt like some of the worst cases where they treated me like I was an entire company of people, and I
Mhm.
was like, hey, there's a whole different price point for if you're paying a studio of people to do this. You are
Yeah.
paying a lone mercenary to try to come in and help. Knowing that that's your
Yeah.
price point, there are trade offs of what you are and aren't paying for in your ability to call me at 3 in the morning or whatever with change requests. And of course, like the upside to right is that can allow us to, at a point in our careers, also say no to some of them, right? Like we can
Mhm. Yes,
decline.
absolutely.
Yeah, if you're in a bigger studio, whatever work comes your way. I remember people would just like kind of struggle over, oh, I hope I don't get assigned to that project for the next 3 years because it wasn't their call. And when we're
Mhm.
doing freelance stuff, a obviously we can pick our to an extent which clients we accept. B like the other nice thing, right? And this is I think helps some of our angst as millennial generation, where like any given time, if I lose one thing, it's like I've got 6 things going on, right? Like I've got
Mm-hmm.
other clients, I've got other things that are in the oven, I've got other things I'm working on. Not all the eggs in one basket makes it
Yeah.
possible. And the Patreon, how long have you been doing that? Kind of what was your thinking going into setting that up? That, of course, is a...
How long have I been on Patreon? I don't remember when I first set it up. But somebody just told me that Patreon was going to start like hiking up their fees.
Yep.
So, so they told me to like start it ASAP. So yeah, I just created an account, and I didn't exactly know what I was going to do on Patreon at first. I just created my account just in case, and then I started to just look at other people's Patreons and get some ideas on what to do, and started learning how to build my brand on YouTube and Patreon and Twitter and Instagram and all that. So yeah, I just got started just because somebody told me that they were hiking up their prices.
As good a reason as any, and yeah, I will say that it's neat to see that you were comfortable jumping in there. For me, like it was, I had basically, because my Patreon is kind of an extension of what I do with Gam Keto Club. It's where people sponsor memberships for folks in the world who couldn't afford. We try to keep our dues modest for like U.S. income levels, but there are parts of the world where the dollar is not as strong as the U.S. dollar, or even parts of the U.S. economy where the recent years have just not had the opportunities or the support needed for folks. But yeah, so in that case, it was like for me, it was like a kind of a big extension build up and writing and drafting, whatever. It's also great to see the amount of people who've jumped into Patreon just as a starting there and then learning as you go. And
Yeah.
I think for many folks, it can be a really accessible thing to tune into because it's like closer to where their journey's at and closer to where they're at and relatable, right? Like,
Yeah. That's a thing that I really like about Patreon is that I see the value in connecting with the community of people who are watching your content and reading your content and being able to interact with them through there. I can see like so much value in that, and that's all I want to do really. I just want to share my journey and help people along the way.
now you mentioned, right, branding across YouTube and Patreon and Instagram and Twitter and I'm sure other platforms. That in itself, right, can be a full specialist job. I'm sure both of us know community managers, like that's all they do is wear that hat. How do you balance that on top of learning code stuff and finding freelance work and everything else you're doing?
Honestly, I think it's easy for me because I am just so authentic and real and honest about everything that I'm going on. So like I don't have to come up with this grand strategy to say specific things to reach specific people. I'm just kind of being myself and seeing where that takes me.
There's no review meetings.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah.
I just write. I write and I review and I post. That's it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, yeah. That like I've even tried. So years ago, I used to be really on the ball for social media. I built a bunch of followers for my blog and my podcast and whatever. Kind of fell off that wagon for a while. Just retweeted people from my social media, and then trying to get back on it. I was like, okay, well, every single day I've got this mountain of like our club's released 70 games. We've had like 60 speakers. I can use that content and bring that back up because it's new to people who didn't catch it in 2015 or 2016 or whatever. And as I've been trying to do it, I was like, okay, I got the scheduler set up, later.com. I'm using free tier stuff. But I was like, okay, I can just build a buffer, just write one tweet and lines. I still have not been able to get ahead of that. Every single night, it's like 11:30 at night. I'm like, I haven't posted anything on Twitter yet today. And I go through my collection of GIFs and I find one. And it just still feels like it's easier to wing it on the spot and take that pressure off and be like, right now I'm just going to say a thing.
I think what really helps is to just identify who you are and just try and be as authentic as possible. Just like if you have a tweet idea, just tweet it and see what happens, and just go for it.
Yeah, it can feel like pressure, but it's just a tweet.
Yeah, it really
it's deletable. It is most people won't see it thanks to how Twitter's algorithm works anymore. It's a shot in the dark. Yeah, I'm reminded too of anytime I've done a bunch of high volume experimental stuff where I make a bunch of things and see which stick or get traffic, videos, or did it for experimental games or blog articles, whatever. I think the thing like that, part of the magic of the internet is that if it's bad, no one sees it. Like dozens of people or a couple hundred people see it most, and if it's really great, millions of people might see it. Hundreds of thousands of people might see it, even without any change of distribution. And like, that's pretty good. That's pretty handy. Thanks, internet. Obviously, as long as it's not like offensively problematically bad. If it's just
Mm-hmm.
like lukewarm bad, it's fine. Nice.
Also, another thing that helps is watching Gary Vee's videos, because he, is very authentic and very just doesn't give a crap. I'm not sure if you allow
I
cursing.
try to keep things family friendly language. I appreciate the filter.
Yeah, but he just does not care about what people think. He's just his authentic self, and I think that's just like the most beautiful thing in the world. And like that really inspires me to be as authentic as possible and just not care about what I put on the internet anymore, because I could apologize later and learn from it and grow from it. So yeah, we're
Yeah,
human.
yeah.
We're allowed to mess up. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's one of those people, and he's got a few really solid audiobooks as well. I feel like there's some speakers who are worth listening to, if only because the energy that they bring, the enthusiasm that they have, the passion that they speak with is almost more valuable than the content. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about his content or the message or the strategies or whatever, but I mean, so the same sort of thing, it may be even a more extreme case, but like Grant Cardone or whatever, where like, I don't know, like, is what he's hucking a strategy that makes any sense financially? I don't think that's what I would do if I was in a situation. That said, the way he communicates, really easy to listen to, kind of inspiring, kind of motivating, just kind of feels like you got a coach yelling at you. And you're like, yeah, I'm pumped now because this person's voice is just really, really, I don't know, infectious,
Yeah,
right? Like,
that's how I feel about Gary Vee. Like something about his voice that just lights a fire in me. I don't know what it is about his voice, but he's just so inspirational, just so powerful.
I will say though, to the kind of like to the branding side, I used to always want to just do things as Chris Delion. I just put my name on games, I just put my name on my projects, whatever. And at some point, what I realized was actually just kind of from cycling through different URLs. I did like interactionartist.com for experimental games. Hobby Game Dev was my blog. Game Devs Like You used to be my podcast before I rebranded to Game Keto Community. And one thing that I liked about moving past URLs was that I could be like, oh, I'm not doing Interaction Artist anymore. That was so 3 years ago. That was so 9 years ago or whatever. Gam Keto is a totally different approach. And I felt like that for me was like a snakeskin I could shed to like move out of it in a way that otherwise, like my name's still attached to the same stuff I did in 07 or 05 or 97 or whatever. So your handle, right? Empathic Dev. How'd you come up with that, or where'd that come from?
That funny story. That actually came about when I was like really mad at Lyft because I I lost my phone and my wallet on a Lyft, and I've been trying for literally 3 days to get it back. That was last year, and I still have not gotten it back. So I lost my phone, lost my wallet, my ID, my cards. It's just I was really upset that it was hard for me to speak with an actual human being to find my things and get my things back. And I was just like, the tech industry needs more empathy. Arr! And then the next day, I was just like, hey, empathic dev. I like that.
Yeah.
I just that's just like really who I am. I've always been a very empathetic person. I've always been like very in tune with people's emotions, and so much so to the point where I actually feel people's pain, which is not fun. So yeah, I've just always been very empathetic person, and I just want to bring that with me in my entrepreneurial endeavors. I just want to make sure that my clients are getting the type of support and encouragement and websites, apps, whatever I do that they need. I just want to make sure that I am being aware of their passion and their mission and bring that stuff to life. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, obviously it's a quality that I feel bad saying this. It almost sounds oxymoronic because of our expectations around software development and engineers.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded there was a few recruiters I'm friends with from bigger game studios, and they would be like, oh yeah, we could find 10 or 20,000 engineers easily who know algorithms and data sorting and whatever, but we need to find ones who can talk to other people. We need to find ones who can like listen to direction and cooperate and make compromises. And that for me has been part of where, like, from my teamwork angle has been the problem for a lot of people and what's limiting and holding them back isn't they don't know how to put a semicolon or a curly brace or how long to make a function or how to comment. It's that, like, you got to work with other people to build anything bigger than which you can, like, poorly struggle slowly putting together alone. It all comes together so much smoother if we're a little bit more open to listening to their needs and coordinating with them and explaining and communicating, articulating our expectations ahead of time, and these different little parts that aren't even necessarily hard in the same way as like optimize the thing, but it's hard in a
Mhm.
different way, right? It involves like vulnerability. It involves admitting there's things they see I don't see,
Mhm.
and
And
it's
a lot
yeah,
of people, yeah, a lot of people aren't really willing to say that they're wrong about a thing, which is just weird to me. But I guess it's just how people are raised. They don't really understand that. I don't know. That's a topic for another day.
yeah. No, but well, I think it touched on a really important thing though. Of the there's a right. It's this difference between I want to be right now versus I want
Hmm.
to actually be right later, which
Yeah.
often involves being like maybe I'm not right now. Maybe there's things that I misunderstood. I came out about it the wrong way. And I do think, and I wonder to what extent it's like almost at this deeply, unfortunately, primal level in us that we talk about
Hmm.
like these voices that are inspiring our energy or whatever. There's a
Hmm.
certain I don't want to say like, but so for some people, how confidently something is said is
Hmm.
really the deciding factor to them to like what direction they go in. And I think that sometimes this is something I've seen, especially like in design spaces, where like when I was in game design teams or divisions of bigger companies or even student groups, where because it was less of a hard discipline, not in difficulty, right, but in terms of like it's a soft, squishy, lots of things can be rationalized kind of space. It
Hmm.
almost felt like whoever was like the most confident and assertive and insistent upon like, no, this is definitely the right way to do it. You get this kind of jerkness attitude of it might even survive like one project of them forcing their way
Hmm.
through. They're not going to still
Hmm.
be with the company after that,
Yeah.
but it's got this kind of like this. I'm reminded of like in RPGs where you can have this like intimidate option for dialogue to
Mm.
like get a better price from the seller, but you can never
Yeah.
work with that seller again.
Yeah.
I wonder how much that's going on. They've gotten results from it. Unfortunately, life has
Yeah.
rewarded them short term from being like
And
that.
I think a lot of that comes from the fact that people put their whole entire identities into their careers. Like, and it kind of feels like a personal attack when somebody says that they're wrong or they need to do this, and need to do that to change to work better with people because they put their whole entire self into their careers and it's just so very personal. Every single piece of criticism that they get from other people. And I think that people just need to force themselves to be multi-dimensional. Like I am interested in web development, yes, but I'm also interested in music, art, writing, gaming, so many other different things that I put my identity in. So like I'm not just like a web developer or I'm not just a musician or I'm not just a writer, I'm not just these things. I am many different things. I'm a human being and I'm interested in so many different things. And I think that's just what people need to start doing nowadays. And I think I see people doing that more often nowadays, aware of the many different things that they're doing, that they're interested in. And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's a side effect, right, of the classic question, like, well, what do you do? Which for many
Hmm.
of us, and I've heard this may be culturally unfair. I've heard it might even be an Americanism or at least
Mm.
Western kind of issue of this idea that like my job or my college major or whatever like somehow is who I am and expresses lots about my interests, my strengths, my weaknesses, my whatever.
Hmm.
Almost to like a basically what we're saying like a horoscope degree of like,
Yeah.
aha, I can tell, therefore you'll have these challenges in your future. It's like, nah, we're all really dimensional people. We're all got other stuff going
Yeah.
on. And I
Yeah.
actually kind of wonder if what's helped it has been this freelancing gig economy, solopreneur, whatever, where whatever our side interest is like, yeah, but I also sell trinkets on Etsy. Yeah, but
Hmm.
I also deal with like, I'm also a business person on eBay or whatever, where
Yeah.
like we can surface those things, not that it'll also be tied to money, but in a way
Hmm.
that weirdly, right, that kind of validates us sometimes about like, oh yeah, that's not just my hobby. That's part of what I do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually a really interesting theory, and I can see, I can understand what that a lot. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't have to monetize like every single thing that you're passionate about. Like you could just choose one thing, and just go for it. Just start learning about this one thing. It could be just like put all of the things that you're passionate about in a hat, pull one out, and just go for it.
Yeah.
You have to monetize like every single aspect of your personality, everything that you're interested in. Just choose one thing and go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember having this kind of, and I guess it's kind of like sitting under the stars is the prime place for this realization. But I went to a little astronomy club meeting back when I was a high school kid, and I was there, and I remember distinctly questioning myself because I was one of these very driven by my grades and future college career kind of people, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, how is astronomy club gonna help my AP exams and my whatever? And I was like, Chris, come on, buddy, like this is why you do all the other work. So you could do these
Yeah,
other things. So
yeah,
this is the part that you actually want to sit into the stars and look up at. And it doesn't have to all be, will this be affecting my science fair outcomes or whatever?
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
and
Just
it's,
have
yeah,
fun.
yeah, yeah,
Have fun before you die. Just have
yeah.
fun. That was kind of morbid, but yeah.
No, yeah, it's very real. Yeah, that's one of the threads I like. He's one of those other kind of people who's got his faults, and I always bring him up with a big disclaimer because of that. But like, so Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week stuff. One of the messages he's gotten there is about trying to make sure people are finding ways to spread out throughout their entire lives enjoyment, outlet, work they find satisfying, things that kind of free up their time, rather than this expectation of like, okay, well, I'll sacrifice everything for this first period
Hmm.
of my life, and then maybe someday during retirement, I'll go fishing or something. And it's
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
we don't actually get those
Yeah,
guarantees.
yeah, you don't have to wait that long. That's another reason why I love Gary Vee. He's like so big on not regretting things. He's just like, if you're interested in a thing, go for it because you don't want to look back on your life and think about all of the things that you were interested in and never took action on because you were too scared and you were just too unsure and you was just forced into doing this one thing that you really hated for 40 years so you can do this one other thing that you thought was going to bring joy but it really didn't, and now you're lost and now you're looking back on your deathbed and now you're regretting your whole life. So like that's one of the things that he really preaches, and that really resonates with me because I don't want to regret my entire life.
Yeah, find it's much easier to try the thing and then at least I feel good about I tried the thing, right? And I'm all
Mhm.
about this as to like it may not be in your control. There's an old Keith Olbermann quote of like, apply to any job, ask anyone out, like try these different things in life.
Yeah,
It's not up to you to say no for them. But they
yeah,
may not be smart enough to say yes in cases where it maybe should have been the right answer, whatever the circumstance, job or whatever. I like the kind of
yeah.
attitude of like, it's not up to you if you win the contest, but it's up to you if you submit your thing to it. And
Mhm.
I run into folks all the time at these big old game networking events or whatever who feel like, oh, I've never won any awards, I've never done whatever, and like, have you submitted any of your stuff to any of them? Because it's
Mhm.
pretty exceptionally rare you just get one that you didn't submit your thing to. There's
Yeah,
always somebody on the team who submitted that thing. It's super hard to win races you're not in.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Well, great. I don't want to keep it for too long. I think it's been great chatting. I don't know if you want to give kind of some last shout outs.
Yeah, I just want to say shout out to the Digital Empire. That's a community for Blacks in tech that was started by Taylor, the Digital Empress on Twitter. It's because I think it's really because of them that I really changed my mindset and understood. I understand now where my path is and um, how to think and move forward in my career. And I think it's really because of them that I'm like this. And I just want to give a huge shout out to them and how amazing they are. And they point out everything that's wrong that I've been doing, and I've been stubbornly accepting every advice and everything that they've given me. And I really think now um, I'm just incredibly grateful to have met all of them and be in this community at this point in my career because yeah, representation matters, and this community for Black people in technology is so very important. So just shout out to them.
Awesome. Sweet. Quick reminder to your handle as well.
Yes, empathic underscore dev on Twitter and empathic.dev on Instagram. The Empathic Dev Patreon, the Empathic Dev on Twitch, and I think that's it. That was Patreon. Oh, YouTube, Empathic Dev, just Empathic Dev.
Nice. Props on
And I'll
consistent
give you
branding.
links.
Nice. And yeah, all my stuff, I guess is once upon your channel stuff. All my stuff's under Gam Keto. That's GAMKEDO, not Game Keto. There's no extra E in the middle. Everyone makes that typo. GAMKEDO, 7 letters. But yeah, that's us on Twitter. That's us on Facebook, on I guess our YouTube is actually like some other handle. I'll put it in the description or something. But yeah, so it's been great chatting. Thank you so much for being on / chatting, collaborating today. I realize again, since my video also probably wind up on one of your things.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on as well.
Okay. So yeah, bye.
Bye, y'all.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Bye. I really enjoyed your the first class that I took. The what was it? Pong.
Oh, code your first game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pong is an Atari trademark. So it's a tennis game that has 2 white rectangles.